Kumi is a rookie teacher at Shirokan High. On her first day of class, she meets Principal Gonzo, who warmly welcomes her and her fellow teacher Fujiya. Vice Principal Goro reprimands the principal for hiring female teachers at an all-boys school, insinuating that he is throwing pigs at a lion's den. Meanwhile, in Class D, the unruly students are excitedly talking about the new homeroom teacher, who they heard to be a woman. Back in the office, the vice principal advises the female teachers to wear tracksuits so they can better survive the jungle they are about to enter. He wishes them good luck and marches off with the other teachers. After hyping herself, she enters the classroom and finds the trio, Haru, Yuchi, and Kuro, all waiting by the door and taking a picture of her. The three students are surprised by her appearance, as she is far from what they have imagined. When she enters the room, the students react negatively, finding her appearance uninteresting. Kuro tries to scare her, but she doesn't react at first, and then acts like she is shocked by his prank. He further makes fun of her, but the class's leader, Shin, tells him to take it easy. As everyone in the class looks up to him, Kuro immediately stops his teasing and sits beside the boy. With this, Kumi takes the opportunity to introduce herself to the class, but the students don't pay attention to her. She then hands out papers and instructs them to write anything about themselves, as she wants to know more about her class. However, the whole class erupts in disagreement and doesn't want to share anything with her. To break the ice, she shares about herself first, but as she writes her information on the board, the class starts to throw crumpled papers at her. Just then, one student hurls a pachinko ball in her direction, but surprisingly, she catches it before it makes contact. Her quick reaction catches the attention of Shin and the whole class, but she acts foolish and scared, making the whole class laugh. However, Shin seems not to be convinced by her act. After class, Yumiko and Fujiya walk outside the school, relieved that they survived the first day of class. The vice principal appears, reprimanding them for chit-chatting while on school grounds. The grumpy man then drives off, almost hitting Womp, Kumi's dog, who comes to fetch her from school. As they prepare to leave, the Class D students wave goodbye to Fujiya, complimenting her for her looks. Shin tells his friends that their new homeroom teacher is not as dumb as she appears to be. Reaching her home, Kumi is welcomed by Ueda clan Yakuza members Tetsu, Minoru, Kyo, and Wakamatsu, who all congratulate her on her first day at work. She then gives respect to her dead parents and tells them that she has finally fulfilled her dream of becoming a teacher. The men ask about her first day of teaching, and she shares the derogatory names the students called her. Seething with anger that she was disrespected, the men vow to retaliate for her and bring their weapons. Kumi calms them down, as she doesn't want to be fired because of them. Just then, Kumi's grandfather Ryu appears, stopping the men from acting aggressively. She tells him that he should have stayed in bed because of his failing health, but the old man only apologizes to her for giving her the burden of acting as a boss when she is now a teacher. However, she assures him that she can take both jobs as she likes the environment she grew up in, unlike her mother. The men can't help but be in awe of her coolness as the next heir of a Yakuza family. Later, she sees off the family's consigliere, Shino, who wishes her good luck in her new role as a teacher. As the man drives off, she can't help but squeal in delight. Seeing her blush, the men can't help but tease her, which earns them injuries. The next day, while on her way to class, Kumi sees Kuro talking to some students in the hallway who tell him to meet them behind the school's gym, and the students scurry away. She asks Kuro about it, but the student only dismisses him. Arriving in class, Kumi is thrilled to discover that the students gave her the nickname Yankumi, which Noda specifically created. Remembering her childhood, she reflects that this is the best nickname she had since she was called a Yakuza leader by her peers before. In the faculty room, Fujiya notices her student, Sekiguchi, who appears bruised and beaten. Despite her concerns, the student refuses to explain what happened. Another teacher suggests that the incident might involve Beazle, a senior who was expelled last year. He mentioned hearing that Beazle has been sneaking into the school and leading a group of seniors. With this, Kumi realizes that Kuro is in trouble and goes after him. Meanwhile, behind the gym, several senior students are ganging on Kuro, led by Beazle. Beazle tells him that ever since he was expelled, the junior students acted like the kings of the school, so he came back to teach them a lesson that the school still belongs to him. Just then, they spot Kumi putting away volleyballs. She acts like a klutz and drops the balls in front of the students. Kuro tries to warn her, but it is too late, as Beazle goes behind her back and traps her. One of the students then smacks Kuro at the back of his head, causing him to lose consciousness. Meanwhile, Shin receives a call from Yuchi that Kuro is in danger because of Beazle. Shin immediately rushes back to the school. After ensuring Kuro won't wake up in the meantime, Kumi beats up Beazle and his lackeys, saying that she won't forgive them for messing with her students. Later, Yuchi, Haru, and Shin find Kuro alone behind the gym. Upon regaining consciousness, he immediately looks for Kumi, who might be in trouble because of him. Just then, Haru sees the 3 senior students beaten up on the ground. Shin suspects that it must be because of Kumi, but his classmates refuse to believe him. They then see Womp, and they believe that it must be the dog's doing. However, Shin is not convinced. Kumi unleashes her fighting prowess alongside her Yakuza subordinates, Tetsu and Minoru. Her dog watches, reflecting on how Kumi truly lives up to her title as the heir of the clan. Watching her, no one would guess that she is a high school teacher. In the classroom, Shin still suspects that Kumi was the one who beat up Beazle and his friends. Yuchi believes it was the dog, but Shin insists that there were no bite marks on the 3 seniors. Just then, a fight breaks out between Sonomura and another student. One of them looks for Kumi, but she is already watching the fight, much to the surprise of her students. Sonomura gets hit, and in response, brandishes a knife. Kumi intervenes, grabbing Sonomura's hand so hard that he drops the weapon. Shin watches, intrigued by the mysterious teacher. While Kumi is teaching, Shin instructs Kuro to walk up to her and hit her on the back of her head, betting that she'll dodge it. Listening to him, Kuro slowly approaches the teacher and smacks her head, but she doesn't dodge. As his plan fails, Shin prepares to leave with Kuro. However, Kumi pleads for them to stay because she has an upcoming teacher's evaluation. One student tells her to give them the answers in advance, but Kumi disagrees, saying it's too risky. Shin goes back to his seat and whispers something to Yuchi, who tells him that what he wants is a little too cruel. Meanwhile, in the faculty room, Fujiya asks Kumi's help with recruiting for the choir club she's starting. She sees Shin's name on the list and doubts if she can be of any help. Back in their house, Kumi reprimands Kyo for not picking up her suit from the dry cleaners and instead preparing traditional clothing for her teacher's evaluation the next day. The following morning, Kumi is nervous about her evaluation, but receives words of encouragement from the principal. As he leaves her to it and meets the visiting teachers, Kumi opens the door to her classroom and sees that the students are not there. She tells the principal to keep the visiting teachers entertained for a while she looks for her students. Meanwhile, the vice principal is talking to someone over the phone, assuring the person that the school's reputation will take yet another hit. Meanwhile, Kumi sees her students on the school's rooftop and figures that Shin is behind their actions. She tells the students to go back to the room, but Shin refuses unless she goes on a duel with him. Running out of time, Kumi agrees to meet him by the river after the class ends. Vice Principal Goro leads the visiting teachers to Kumi's class, sure that they'll create trouble. But to his surprise, the class is quietly listening to their teacher in front. Kumi is exhausted after the evaluation, but has to do research on Shin. She learns from another teacher that the student has excellent grades, but when he was in junior high, he punched his homeroom teacher, and no one knows why he did it. Meanwhile, Shin waits by the river, and his friends wonder why he is so fixated on their lame teacher. They even comment that the boy seems to be having fun. Kuro agrees, and recalls the moment when Shin beat up their junior high teacher for refusing to apologize to an innocent student. The teacher had been unfairly harassing the student over a stolen purse that the student hadn't even taken. Hearing this story, Kumi realizes that Shin is a decent guy who looks out for his friends. She approaches Shin, who admits that he wants to duel with her to prove that she isn't a normal teacher. However, Kumi calls him childish for mobilizing his classmates for selfish reasons, insisting that this isn't the kind of person he is. She tells him that she won't go one-on-one with him, but since she made a promise, she'll make it up by recruiting him for the choir club, where the curvy Fujiya will be his club advisor. Shin finds it ridiculous, and is about to ask for a duel again, when a patrolling police officer sees them and gives chase. To their surprise, Kumi bolts immediately, as if running from a cop is second nature to her. Womp sees the commotion, and helps them by slowing down the police. Kumi is grading her class's math tests, but it just gives her a headache as they submitted a bunch of scribbles instead of serious answers. Meanwhile, at a nightclub, the customers are unruly, and one of the entertainers, Sayuri, tries to kick them out. The customer pushes her, injuring her face. In retaliation, she slaps him. Enraged, the man tries to hit her with a bottle, but Kumi arrives just in time to prevent the accident. After Kumi sends the unruly guys out, Sayuri expresses her gratitude to the young woman. The teacher learns that Sayuri raises her son alone and used to have her own bar, but it closed due to the recession. Sayuri worries that she won't be able to find a job due to her age, but is thankful to Yusue for taking her in. Looking closely at her, Kumi feels Sayuri's face is familiar and asks if they have met before. However, Sayuri doesn't remember her at all. After their chit-chat, Kumi leaves the club. The next day, Kumi gives back the test papers, pissed that they have low scores besides Shin, who got almost a perfect score. So, as a punishment, she schedules a remedial class for all those who flunked. The students try to reason with her, especially Yuchi, who insists they don't need math to find factory jobs. However, Kumi tells him that even a factory won't accept someone like him who doesn't even know how to properly solve simple arithmetic problems. Pissed, Yuchi declares that he's going to be a gangster instead. Yakumi takes this as an offense, telling him, "Don't insult gangsters, as they won't accept someone lame-brain like him." The class is shocked by her passion and interest in gangsters, which she immediately notices, so she reverts to her teacher persona. After she leaves the class, Yuchi, Haru, and Kuro talk about their flunked scores and plan to ditch the remedial class. In the faculty room, Kumi discusses her plan to give a remedial class for her students. However, the vice principal discourages her from doing so, saying no one has ever succeeded in giving remedial classes at their school, and the students barely even come to the regular class. Fujiya takes this opportunity to discuss with Goro that she aims to create a choir club for the boys. Imagining it, Goro can't help but feel uneasy with delinquent students singing in a choir. After class, Kumi waits for the students to attend her remedial class, but like what they had planned, they ditch her. As Kumi walks out of the room, she sees Sayuri from the nightclub, who immediately notices her. Threatened, she drags Sayuri out of the school's hallway. Noda witnesses this and reports to Kuro that Kumi grabs his mother by the throat, earning disbelief from everyone. Meanwhile, out of earshot, Sayuri expresses shock that Kumi is the homeroom teacher of her son. The teacher states that she was familiar before, because Kuro took after her. As they are talking, Shin and Kuro appear, and the latter misinterprets the scene, accusing Kumi of attacking his mother for not attending her remedial class. Sayuri intervenes and reprimands her son for disrespecting his teacher, and the one who saved her life. She goes on about how a drunkard almost ended her life, but Kumi interfered and saved her. Kuro is dubious about this, but Shin truly believes that she did it. The next day, Kumi waits for her students to attend her remedial classes, and is surprised when Shin shows up. He tells her that no one is likely to attend her class, but she insists that it is her duty to wait for her students. Otherwise, she wouldn't be true to her word. Kumi then suggests he join the choir club, but he tells her it won't happen. The following day, Kuro attends class with bruises on his face, much to everyone's surprise. He explains that his mother beat him for skipping remedial classes. When the class ends, Kuro decides to attend the remedial class and receives teasing from his classmates for being afraid of his mother. However, he clarifies that he's doing it out of gratitude for Kumi saving his mother's life. Feeling bad for her as well, Noda follows Kuro to attend remedial. As Shin and Haru don't need to attend, Yuchi is left with no choice but to join the remedial class. Kumi is shocked to see the trio attending her class, and they all express that they are only there out of pity for her. Later that night, she is frustrated to see their papers full of mindless scribbles once again. Minoru and Fuji are patrolling their area when they come across a police officer on duty. Back at the residence, Kumi hears that Minoru and Fuji have been apprehended by the police. Worried about the two, she rushes out to rescue her subordinates. Just then, Minoru walks in and reveals that Womp bailed them out. Kumi excitedly expresses her gratitude to the consigliere, earning teasing from the other Yakuza members, who quickly receive a beating from her in response. The next day, the school is in disarray as the police search for a man who has been stealing purses in the area. Fujiya is furious that the police have plastered posters outside the school, implying that one of their students is the culprit. However, the vice principal seems to agree with the authorities, suggesting that the thief could indeed be one of their delinquent students. Just then, detectives emerge from the principal's office, and Kumi quickly hides under her desk, much to Fujiya's confusion. When the principal returns, he informs them that the thief's victim from last night almost died after being struck with a blunt weapon. Despite this, the principal refuses to believe that one of their students could commit such a heinous crime, a sentiment echoed by all the teachers except the vice principal, who remains suspicious of the students. When Kumi enters her class, she is shocked to see Noda holding a woman's purse full of cash. Immediately, she grabs her student and interrogates him about where he got the wallet. Noda explains that the purse belongs to his sister and that she probably put it in his bag by mistake. Yuchi notices her suspicion and realizes that Kumi thinks Noda might be the thief, causing her embarrassment. Yuchi then accuses her of being just like everyone else who is suspicious of them after the series of thefts. Realizing her mistake, Kumi apologizes to them. Later, on the rooftop, the four boys discuss how Noda looks like the sketch of the thief. Yuchi then suggests they clear their names. The boys then meet that night, but the police chase after them. Buying some drinks, Haru witnesses this and immediately calls Shin and Kumi. The teacher then rushes to the police station. Haru explains that they decided to catch the thief themselves because everyone blames them. However, the police take the two into custody for acting suspiciously. Worried for her students, she confronts the chief investigator, but ends up losing her cool when he openly suspects her students of being thieves. After calming down, she pleads with the detective once again, since he has no solid evidence against them. In the end, the two are released from detention. Outside the station, The vice principal arrives and chastises them for bringing shame to the school. However, Kumi defends her students, explaining that they are trying to capture the thief to clear their names. Goro finds this absurd, stating they should hold a meeting immediately to expel the two boys. Triggered, Kumi asks what he would do if she proved her students were innocent. Unable to come up with an answer, the vice principal speeds off, leaving Kumi and the boys determined to prove their innocence. She tells them she has a plan and heads to Yusue's nightclub to ask for a favor. Meanwhile, the four friends wait for her arrival, assuming she will ask a friend to act as a decoy while they catch the thief. They are surprised to see Kumi arrive in disguise, realizing she will be the decoy herself. Though skeptical of her disguise, she assures them she'll get the thief's attention by borrowing an expensive handbag. Later, they watch as Kumi walks toward the thief's known location, but gets distracted when Kuro arrives with food. While they're busy eating, Kumi hears the thief victimizing another woman and rushes over. She attacks the man and screams that she is being assaulted. The boys rush over and apprehend the thief, who turns out not to be a student from their school. The next day, the principal and the teachers are all relieved to know that the thief has finally been caught. Kumi receives news that her grandfather has been rushed to the hospital. She arrives, and she immediately seeks comfort from Shino. Ryu assures her that he is feeling fine, but warns her to be cautious as the head of the Uedo clan. Meanwhile, several men attack a member of the Kakita clan, claiming they are from the Uedo clan. Celebrating their boss's recovery, Minoru and Tetsu drink until they black out. Just then, Beezle, with a sinister smile, appears before them. At school, Shin warns Kumi about Beezle, who is seen hanging out with the Nakoma group, suggesting he might be planning revenge. Later, Kumi is visited by Tenkai, an ally of their clan. He informs them that the Kakita clan is brewing a fight against them due to recent disputes involving their members. Kumi and her members deny any involvement. Tenkai points out that someone might have been using their name to stir up trouble with the Kakita group, creating a feud between the two clans. However, a badge belonging to the Uedo clan was found at the scene. While serving tea, Minoru recognizes his badge, and Wakamatsu immediately asks them if they had any run-ins with other clans. The two deny this, with Minoru clarifying that he lost his badge while drunk. Tenkai suggests that Ryu attend a meeting with other clan leaders, but they inform him that the clan head is currently indisposed. Kumi volunteers to go, but Tenkai is hesitant, fearing she has less influence than her grandfather. He suggests she bring the two members who are suspected. The two Yakuza members voice their fear of losing a finger, but Kumi agrees to take them to the meeting. Later, Kyo comments that Kumi is running late for the meeting. Just then, she arrives in traditional clothes, ready to attend. Minoru and Tetsu can't help but gush over their boss. Suddenly, she hits them in their stomachs, planning to leave them behind and not hand them over to the clans. While in transit, Kyo recalls when Kumi joined the Yakuza family after her parents died. He used to look after her and train her to fight. Now, she is a grown woman looking after her subordinates. Meanwhile, tied up, Minoru and Tetsu remember when they first arrived at the residence after causing trouble on the Uedo clan's turf. They intentionally caught the Yakuza's attention to join them, claiming they were abandoned by their family. The two boys then started to cry, and pitying them, Kumi decided to take them in. She trained them to become good gangsters, punishing them if they ever did anything to smear their name. However, she didn't let anyone bully them for being delinquents. Recalling what Kumi did for them, the two cry. Meanwhile, Shin, Kuro, and Yuchi hang out near the Kakita clan's office. As they are about to leave, Kumi arrives. Fortunately, the two students don't recognize her, but Shin casts a longer glance at her. Kumi shows up at the clan meeting, and seeing her without Minoru and Tetsu offends the head of the Kakita clan. Kumi humbly asks for reconciliation, aware that refusing to offer her two underlings could lead to a bloodbath. The chairman looks at her intensely as she waits for his decision, but to everyone's surprise, the old man just laughs and reveals that he is there to ensure there will be no needless battle. He dismisses both clans, settling the issue. On their way home, Kyo informs Kumi that punks hired by the Nakoma group are using their name while attacking other Yakuza groups. She remembers Shin warning her about the same group. Just then, Minoru and Tetsu rush towards them, bruised and battered. They bow down before Kumi, begging for her forgiveness. Shino arrives to help Kumi, but barely recognizes her in her outfit, and ends up laughing at her transformation, much to her embarrassment. Shin witnesses one of his classmates being dragged by other students who are extorting money from him. He intervenes, but the students gang up on him. Just then, Kumi, wearing a mask, appears and beats up the unruly students. As she attempts to leave, Shin calls after her, recognizing her despite the mask. She escapes his scrutinizing gaze, but ends up bumping into the vice principal, who becomes suspicious of her odd behavior. After school, Kuro and Shin meet, and as they leave on a scooter, they see Kumi riding in a car with two Yakuza members. Curious, They follow the car. Meanwhile, Kumi arrives at the hospital to see Ryu, who is preparing to be discharged. He insists on resuming his role as the head of the clan, not wanting to burden her with Yakuza responsibilities, so she can focus on her teaching. To appease Ryu, Kyo promises to protect Kumi's dream with his life, vowing that no one will discover her Yakuza connections, ensuring she doesn't lose her job as a teacher. That night, Shin and Kuro continue to follow Kumi until they reach the Uedo clan's residence. Determined to uncover her secrets, Shin infiltrates the estate with Kuro. Fuji spots them and starts barking. Just then, Tetsu arrives and apprehends them. The other Yakuza members gang up on the intruders, accusing them of being spies from the Nakoma group. Left with no choice, Kumi reveals herself and stops her men from harassing the students. As she is about to explain herself to Shin and Kuro, Kyo arrives and grabs her. He pretends to slap her, demanding she pay her debts to the Yakuza, much to the shock and horror of the other members. However, his emotions betray him as he starts to cry while fake hitting his boss. Seeing his devotion, the other members start tearing up. Kuro then intervenes, stopping Kyo from hurting his teacher. Kyo lets them go, and they take Kumi with them. While walking home, Kuro chastises her for borrowing money from the Yakuza. However, Shin, skeptical of the cheesy act, tells her he recognizes her from the Kakita office, even though she has disguised herself. The next day, Kumi meets Shin at school. He promises not to reveal her identity if she explains why she decided to become a teacher. She tells him about her two underlings, Minoru and Tetsu, who were expelled from school for being delinquents. She realized she wanted to be a teacher to prevent kids like them from being kicked out of school. Hearing her answer, Shin promises not to expose her, adding that school would be boring without her. Later, she visits her students on the rooftop, seeing them eating breakfast. As the bell rings, she urges them to get inside the classroom. Knowing that she is hungry, Kuro offers her his bread, thinking she is skipping breakfast to save money. Grateful, she promises to always protect her students. At school, Kumi is surprised to learn that the boys are practicing to join the choir club. Curious, she goes to see that Fujiya has actually succeeded in creating her dream choir. On their way home, Fujiya laments that she can't recruit more attractive faces for her club. Kumi almost sighs, thinking that her colleague is still hung up on outward appearances. Just then, they see a student named Ichika, who appears to have been hit. The next day, the students gossip about rumors regarding why Fujiya resigned from her previous school, even suggesting that she eloped with a junior student who later died. Kumi overhears this and scolds her students for spreading such lewd stories about their teacher. Fujiya hears this as well and tells her that she doesn't mind the rumors, as some of them are true. While walking in the hallways, Kumi sees Ichika about to be beaten up and intervenes, stopping the fight. Noticing how meek the boy looks, she worries that he won't survive the school environment. On the rooftop, Fujiya shares that no matter how hard she tries to help Ichika, he won't open up to her and tends to gravitate toward the delinquent students who are using him for wrestling practice. Kumi realizes that Fujiya is trying her best to recruit Ichika into the choir, so he will have a different group of friends. Later, Fujiya sees Ichika getting bullied by his friends again. She follows him, catches him stealing video games for his so-called friends, and stops him. However, the student only runs away from her. She then chases after him, persistently urging him to join the choir. While walking with Womp, Kumi sees her co-teacher exhausted on the ground after chasing her student. That evening, while having drinks at a pop-up bar, Fujiya confesses to Kumi that one of her former students ended his life. Flashback to when Fujiya had just started as a middle school teacher, she recalls a former student who was bullied in a similar way to Ichika. That student overdosed on sleeping pills, but was brought to the hospital on time, thus surviving. However, the parents blamed the school and Fujiya for not seeing what was happening in class. Fujiya reflects that it is tough for a teacher to know what is inside students' hearts and quit. She realized, however, that teaching was her calling and is now determined to do her best for her students. At the bully's home, they plan to teach Ichika a lesson for not showing up. The next day at school, Kumi is distracted in class as she is still thinking about Fujiya and how kids may seem okay on the outside, but may be in deep pain on the inside. She turns to the class and cancels the lesson, saying they will instead play soccer for them to release their angst. During the game, Kumi is extremely competitive, scoring a goal. However, they stop when they see Ichika on the roof of the building, standing on the edge. Students all gather below and beg him to step away from the railing. However, Fujiya goes forward, encouraging him to jump, saying she is going to catch him and that her assets will cushion his jump. She can convince him to get behind the railing, but he slips. However, Kumi jumps in and catches him but cannot grab the railing, but they are saved by Shin and her other students. Ichika is thankful, and so becomes a member of Fujiya's choir group. Fujiya and Kumi are in the faculty room, excitedly talking about their upcoming school trip to Okinawa. The other teachers try to dissuade them by saying that school trips with those delinquents are trouble. The students get into fights with kids from other schools or get into trouble peeking into women's bathrooms. Goro arrives, saying the teachers need all the help they can get, and that if the students cause any trouble, Fujiya and Kumi will suffer the consequences. In the classroom, Shin and the others are whining about only getting a free day, but they get excited when Kuro shares that some kids snuck out during last year's trip and partied all night long, which gets everyone excited. As the plane flies away, Womp looks on and hope nothing goes wrong. In Okinawa, Haru immediately gets into a conflict with some punks, but Kumi gets between them and intimidates the other students, preventing a fight. They arrive at the first tourist site, but see that there is a load of cute girls from an all-female school, and decide it would be chaos to let the boys out of the bus, so they drive away much to their students' chagrin. However, the next site is full of rowdy teens from another school, so they decide to drive away again without letting their now impatient students out of the bus. In the back, Shin has an idea that he shares with the others. At the next site, Kumi and Fujiya debate whether to let the students out, as the museum is filled with breakable items, when Shin, Haru, Noda, Kuro, and Yuchi go down and make a break for it. However, they are not fast enough to get away from Kumi, who catches each student one by one and returns them to the bus. That evening, at the hotel, the teachers are standing outside the rooms and hotel-like guards, determined not to let anyone escape. Inside the hotel room, Haru laments that it feels like they are being watched by hawks, but Shin says this is the time for them to try to escape. Outside, they see Kumi falling asleep. It turns out that running away all day was part of their plan to make her tired, so that they could make their actual escape. Fujiya sees Kumi and takes her inside the hotel. Later that evening, Kumi wakes up and sees Shin on top of her on the bed, saying he needs to say something. Enraged, she grabs Shin and threatens to punish him severely. Fujiya is awoken by the noise and gets the wrong idea about what the two of them are doing. She teases Kumi and Shin before realizing that Noda, Kuro, and Yuchi are also in the room. The four students say that they went downtown to have some fun, and Haru hit on a girl outside a club. However, some other teens didn't like what he was doing, and Haru insulted them in turn. He didn't realize the other group outnumbered them, and so the Shirokan students ran, and Haru got separated. They add that Haru has now been missing for over an hour and is not answering his phone. Shin leads Kumi to the area where the fight broke out. He spots some of the delinquents and demands to know where his friend is. Kumi tells him to calm down when asking for information, but she quickly loses her cool when one makes a joke about having torn Haru to pieces, causing her to beat them all to a pulp. Unfortunately, they don't know anything. Kumi and Shin keep searching, spot more punks, and overhear them talking about Uchi. Kumi rushes in, grabbing one by the shirt and asking what he knows. They share that the Mangose gang was the one who grabbed Haru, thinking he was one of them. They say they will help get Haru back, but Shin thinks it is fishy that these guys would risk their lives for someone they just met. Kumi reasons that they probably have big hearts. At the docks, Kumi, Shin, and the gang meet face to face with the Mangose gang, who have them surrounded. Kumi goes to the front and demands that the Mangose leader hand Haru over, or she will take him back or die trying. The leader initially smirks at being challenged by a puny girl, but as he locks eyes with Kumi, he feels her strong, dragon-like aura and soon runs away in fear, shocking his men. Soon all of them also flee, and they spot Haru inside a warehouse. However, it turns out it is a different Haru who also has purple hair. Kumi is dismayed, but her newfound gang friends promise to help her find him. She draws a chalk sketch to give them an idea of what he looks like. Meanwhile, Haru wakes up in the park, only to fall asleep. He is spotted by one of the gang members on a bike, who shares how cool Kumi is. He adds that Haru should not give his teacher any trouble. He takes him back to the docks, and Kumi is overjoyed to see him. She runs towards him with a huge smile, but then beats him up as punishment. At the hotel, the others are shocked to see Uchi's face swell up and wonder what happened to him. Back home, her dog is overjoyed that Kumi got home safely. She gives tiny souvenirs to everyone, but cheerfully gives 2 large figurines to Shino. In the hallway, the juniors and seniors get into a brawl, as usual. The Shirokan Culture Festival is tomorrow, and Class 3D wants to make a host club, an idea Kumi finds hilarious. She also wonders why the juniors and seniors have such beef. She learns that the juniors feel justified because the seniors have given them so much trouble. The former Beazle kept bullying and beating the juniors for no reason. After Beazle was expelled, the seniors stopped. But now another senior out on suspension, a boy named Ichiro, is coming back, so trouble might start again. He is a friend of Beazle. Ichiro is so strong that it took multiple teachers to hold him down. Goro arrives and says he decided to allow the delinquent boy back since he thinks allowing Ichiro to attend the school festival will help the troubled teen turn a new leaf. Goro adds that the delinquent voiced his desire to join and even sounded sincere. Outside, the clash between the seniors and juniors has been broken up. Yuchi is on the run and bumps into a huge man, whom Noda describes as a mountain. Yuchi is shaking in fear but sees everyone watching their confrontation and decides he can't let the other students see him chicken out. He punches Ichiro, but the huge senior barely feels anything. Yuchi then decides to act drunk to try to sucker kick Ichiro, but it again has no effect. The seniors look excited for their batchmate to pummel Yuchi, but Ichiro hesitates out of pity, citing the huge disparity in strength between them. He turns and walks away, but the seniors goad him by saying that Yuchi insulted his appearance. This triggers Ichiro, who turns back and prepares to kick Yuchi with all his might. However, he pulls back at the last second, not hitting him with his full force, something Kumi notices. In the classroom, Kumi asks how they will achieve their plans for the culture festival, but Shin says they won't be able to pull it off as long as the seniors there are itching for a fight, a sentiment that Kumi silently agrees with. The next day, the festival began. Some girls see the host club and are interested when they see Shin's photo, but are turned off when Shin comes out and is rude to them. Kumi berates her class for their poor aura and tells them to act more gentle and cute. Shin is uninterested, but Kumi can convince him to stay. Later outside, Yuchi and Kuro meet up with the other junior representatives, with Kumi secretly listening. They wonder if they would stand a chance against Ichiro if they all gang up on him. In the senior classroom, the seniors are itching to fight the juniors, but Ichiro isn't interested and cares more about cooking yakisoba and selling them during the festival. Fuji enters, and Kumi sees this and notes that there is more to Ichiro than just being a bully. In the host room, Gonzo and Goro walk in and find it suspicious that most of the students aren't there. They plan to go out and see if the students first, causing a ruckus outside, but Kumi convinces them to try out their club first, leaving them with Shin as host. In the field, the seniors are waiting for the juniors to show up. Ichiro arrives and spots a container of yakisoba. He goes to grab it, but it turns out to be a trap as he falls down a big hole. The juniors then appear and start chasing the seniors. Kumi goes to the hole and helps Ichiro out of the hole. She tells him that the juniors and seniors will settle down after letting the aggression out of their system, and things will not escalate so long as he stops bullying. Ichiro admits that in his heart, he doesn't want to bully others, but he has no choice since society has convinced him that he has to be the strongest if he wants to rule. Kumi asks what he will do if he finds someone stronger than him. He says there is no one like that in school, but she punches the wall beside his face, cracking it and challenging him to a fight. He initially refuses, but she insults his appearance, goading him into attacking. She is too fast though, and easily avoids all his attacks, causing his nose to bleed with just 2 fingers. Ichiro admits defeat and will do what she says. Kumi says he should stop letting the other students egg him on and stop hitting those who are weaker than him. She adds that he shouldn't flaunt his power needlessly and instead hit the books. Ichiro wonders if the festival is over, and Kumi invites him to join their hosting club. Haru, Kuro, Noda, and Yuchi head back to the classroom after the brawl and hear a commotion coming from their room. They rush back and see Gonzo and Goro enjoying the food beside an annoyed Shin. In addition, a huge crowd of girls are gathered around Ichiro, who is happily cooking yakisoba. The 4 friends are further shocked when they look at the poster and see that Ichiro has become the room's #1 host. At night, Tanaka is being chased by 3 men wearing cat masks. They corner him in an alley, and he screams in despair. In the classroom, the students talk about how there are now 3 victims from their school. Kumi asks them why Tanaka is absent, but Yuchi says he simply tripped and hit the ground. Kumi states that they better not be fighting the seniors again. In a parking area, a man buys a package from 2 men who tell him to spread the word to all his friends. Inside is a cat badge. Later that night, as he is heading home with his 2 friends, they mock him for paying $100 for the badge. He tells his 2 friends that the deal is that whoever is wearing the cat badge won't be attacked. They are then surrounded by 3 men with sticks who beat up the 2 friends but leave the guy with the cat pin alone. The next day, Haru, Kuro, Noda, and Yuchi talk about how 2 seniors got beaten up the previous night. At school, Kumi notices that multiple students are wearing cat badges. She enters the teacher's room and sees everyone looking very tense. They explain that the badges cost $100 and that they have received multiple complaints from parents that their kids were stealing money to buy these badges, and that gangs were using threats to blackmail the students, as those without them would get attacked by cats. Kumi tells them that she finds the idea ridiculous, but when she exits, we see that she actually suspects the mob of perpetrating this plot. She meets with Shin, who says he heard that someone has been selling them at the train station. He asks her not to head there, but she warns him to stay where he is as she heads out. On the way, Womp says he is worried about her, but will stay with her always. They arrive at the Tenkai group building. She tells Womp to wait outside as she heads in, and tells the guard that she is there to talk to Tenkai Kumicho. The guard is annoyed at her insolence, but another man enters the room and recognizes her. He offers to escort her, and they pass by multiple men laughing uncontrollably. She figures Uncle Tenkai is trying some new self-help stuff. Tenkai is with a doctor training him in how to laugh with all his might for good luck. Kumi enters, and Tenkai is glad to see her. He is angry at hearing about what is happening under his nose. She asks for permission to look into it for him, since they are targeting the kids from her school. He agrees, as long as she promises not to get hurt. Someone spots her going out of the Tenkai building, and is determined to get to the bottom of things. She heads to Shirokan Station, but is unsure where to wait. Shin arrives and says she won't get anywhere just waiting for them to show up. He adds that they are only targeting Shirokan students, so he says he will act as bait. She initially refuses, but he insists. At the arcade, he meets two men, and he agrees to buy the badge from them in an hour on the rails. Kumi tells Shin to head home as she runs to the location. At the hideout, the two men who talk to Shin enter to report to Miyata, who is pleased with all their sales. They initially thought to earn money from the cat badges as Nekomata good luck charms, but couldn't move them, and are happy they could use this plan to sell their stock. One man removes his cat mask, and we see it as Beazle, the former Shirokan student who got expelled but kept making trouble there. Kumi then barges in. She goes into the hideout and says she is there to make them pay. Miyata orders his men to take her out. Outside, Womp searches for Kumi. While inside, she beats up the goons, who are no match for her. However, one of the Nekomata men enters with a captive Shin, who is lurking about outside. She stops attacking and stands still as they punch her. She says she will stay as long as they let him go. They continue to beat her up as Shin begs for her to fight back and not worry about him. Suddenly, Tetsu and Minaru arrive to the rescue. They quickly get Shin free and say the boss from Tenkai gave them the heads up, and they saw Womp nearby, so they knew where to go. Tetsu notices there is blood on Kumi's, angering him. The three of them proceed to pulverize the Nekomata goons. Beazle escapes. Womp tries to chase after him but fails to catch him. Meanwhile, Kumi scares the goons, telling them never to lay a finger on her kids again, as they swear never to go after Shirokan students again and never invade Tenkai turf. Shin is driven home in Kumi's car. She drops him off and then apologizes to him, saying it was her fault he got hurt. He walks to the gate and sits, looking hurt by what just happened. The next day, the students wonder what happened to her face as she checks the classroom and notices that Shin is absent. Kumi is shocked to hear from the principal that Shin dropped out of school. Gonzo tells her that the young man's father dropped by to give a withdrawal notification earlier that morning, so he had no choice but to accept it. She asks the principal to put the withdrawal on hold, since she wants to talk to Shin first. After class, Kumi and Shin's friends head to Shin's house to talk to him. Kuro tells the others that due to the assault charge he received in junior high, his admission to a prestigious school was revoked, and so he ended up in Shirokan against his parents' wishes. Shin got into a huge fight with his dad because of it, and so he left home when he started going to Shirokan. They arrive in front of Shin's house, which turns out to be huge. Kuro and the others are too afraid to ring the doorbell, fearing that Shin's dad might be home. Kumi thinks they're cowards and rings the bell herself. The teens continue to talk about Shin's dad and how he is a police commissioner, making Kumi back away from the doorbell and telling the others they should go back next time. However, she bumps into Shin's dad, who turns out to have just returned. Kumi introduces herself as Shin's homeroom teacher, and she asks that she speak to Shin in person. Gu, the father, reluctantly agrees. The teacher enters the house gate with Gu, while the delinquents stay outside. Kumi talks to Shin in his room. She asks him why he is being confined in his room. Shin tells her that it's because his older brother, who was supposed to be the perfect son, ran off, and now he is expected to take his place to follow in their father's footsteps. Kumi expresses that he was a selfish father. He gives her an envelope containing Shin's test paper and asks the young man to fill up his answers. Shin doesn't see the point, and he tells her that he can't defy his father. Kumi tells him she will respect his dropping out, as long as it's his decision. Kumi leaves the house, saying nothing to the boys about what happened inside. Back in Shin's room, he is holding the envelope, remembering that Kumi told him to make his own decision. Meanwhile, Kumi tells his delinquent students that Shin is being locked up in the house. The students want to break him out of the house, but Kumi tells them they shouldn't do anything that would let them end up in juvie. She walks away from her silenced students and tells them to give up. However, Yuchi still encourages the others to rescue Shin, making the group of friends determined to bust him out. Later that night, Kumi is at her clan house, lost in thought and unable to understand how Shin's father could undermine his son's happiness. Kyo tells her that sometimes the happiness a father envisions for his child differs from what the child wants. Their talk is interrupted as Tetsu comes running, saying that they got a call from the police. Kumi goes to the police station, seeing that his students, including Tsuruta, are gathered there, all beaten up after they tried to rescue Shin. The police chief tells Kumi that they were caught trespassing. Kumi is angry, seeing that this is still not a reason to beat up the kids. She accuses the man of being under the commissioner's thumb. He denies the accusation and tells them to leave now. Kumi is left alone with her students, and she is angry at them for what they did. Kuro hands a paper to our protagonist, telling her it came from Shin. She unfolds it and sees that it's the test paper she left for Shin, but now it's answered. This gives the teacher determination, saying she will free Shin herself. Both Kumi and Kyo infiltrate the police commissioner's house, eliminating all the guards in their way. Shin hears a noise outside his balcony, and he sees that Kumi has already climbed up to rescue him. Gu hears from his guards that Shin was abducted. They report that he was taken by a Yakuza-type man and a woman, giving the commissioner an idea of who took his son. The next day, Gu visits the Uedo clan house, taken aback that his son's teacher is a Yakuza heiress. He threatens to tell the school about her true identity if she doesn't give him his son back. This makes Kyo charge at the police commissioner, but Kumi stops him. She tells him she knows what was at risk the moment she helped Shin. Shin overhears from the room nearby, as Kumi tells his father that she has no problem if he unmasks her at the school. Gu does not give up, and tells them that the Uedo head will suffer because of this. This makes Kumi tell him that his grandfather is a better man than he is, since he allowed her to pursue her dream of being a teacher, rather than throw his own lifestyle down his children's throats. Ryu hears the commotion, and shows himself to the commissioner. He raises his voice, telling him and his men that his clan will not back down from whatever they do. Gu is impressed by his charisma, and tells him that he will come back with all the necessary documents to take them down. Shin suddenly reveals himself, and tells his father to stop using his authority for his selfish ends. Out of nowhere, he begs his father to let him graduate from Shirokin High. The young man reveals that he has grown to love the friends he got to know there. He then looks at Kumi, and tells him he likes the teachers there too. He tells his father that he will no longer try to impress him, and now wants to make his own decisions. This makes Gu back off and leave. Shin apologizes to the Yakuza clan for causing trouble. Kumi tells him that he grants him a perfect score for his performance, and hands him his test paper with a grade of 100. Kumi is running to school because she's about to be late. A car passes over her, and it turns out that the car parks at the school. The man walks out of the car, looking like Gonzo, the principal. Kumi greets the man, only to realize that it's another taller person. Defensive, the woman makes a fighting pose and asks who he is. Goro suddenly shows up to tell her to show their chairman some respect. Later at the office, Gonzo laughs up the misunderstanding, and tells Kumi he is his older brother and chairman of the school. While Kumi apologizes to him, the chairman says she is as stupid as the students in the school. This makes the teacher angry, so Gonzo needs to calm her down. Kumi backs down and is about to leave, only to hear the brothers' conversation that the school will be shut down. The chairman announces with no regret that Shirokin High School will be closed. Gonzo defends the school's decision to stay open, but the chairman justifies that Shirokin doesn't excel in any sports activity, and that no students are losers. Kumi interferes, telling the chairman that all he's concerned with are grades and trophies. She says that the students can make a name for themselves and do anything if they put their minds to it, and she challenges him, saying that if they achieve something, he will call off closing the school. The man agrees but is reluctant to put it into a contract. Kumi accuses him of being two-faced and insists on it. Later at the teacher's office, Kumi shows his co-workers the contract. They read that the school will not close down if any of the students win number 1 in any academic or athletic pursuit. One teacher reveals that he was a rugby player in college, and that he will start a rugby team. One wants to make a karate team, and one wants to make a water polo team. Fujiya even insists that her choir club will win the national competition. Later, Kumi heads to her classroom. Her students believe that they have no chance. Kumi can't believe they would give up so easily, but none of them care. Later on, Kumi visits Shin, who is hanging out on the roof, for advice. He tells her unironically that the one thing the school is good at is brawling, making Kumkyo think about it. The young man also reveals that the chairman wants to shut down the school because he wants to build a new office building on site, and that Goro, the vice principal, already has a job in the new building. This only makes the teacher even more determined to win. Later, as Kumi walks home, she sees the sight of a man begging for a position within her Yakuza house. The man reveals that he was once a professional boxer in Mexico, making Kumi glad to hire him. Kumi forces Shin and his friends to join her boxing club and introduces them to their coach, a former professional boxer, the same man begging for a job before, Maruta. Kumi says that while the boxing championship just ended the other day, she still challenged the winner of the tournament, Yabuki High, to a match, even if they continued to reject her challenge. Kumi calls Yabuki by phone, only to be turned down again, as they say they already arranged a sparring session with a university. Meanwhile, Mr. Iwamoto, the teacher who leads the rugby team, returns to the office, regretful that he got carried away with the training and that the entire rugby team got injured. The water polo teacher also shows up, saying that his club also needs to forfeit, because no one on his team can swim. Meanwhile, Fujiya's choir club is singing in the national championship, only to be laughed at by the tournament. Fujiya returns to the teacher's office, frustrated that her club received a unique character award. Elsewhere, Tsuruta is competing in a karate competition, only for the teachers to receive news that he only made it to the quarterfinals. This only makes Goro laugh, who is smug at all the teachers' failures. Kumi heads to the gym to tell her boxing club that they need to make a move. Elsewhere, the Yabuki High Boxing Club is at Rikiishi College, heading into their gym. They arrive at the gym, only to see that Kumi's boxing club are there to challenge them. The first match is Yuchi versus one of the Yakubi, only for him to go down with one punch. Noda takes the second turn, only to also be defeated with a knockout. Despite their losing streak, Haru is confident he will win his match. Despite entering the ring by hitting his head on the mat, he still shows a confident face. With one punch, the man goes down. They thought it was over, only for Haru to get back up. He gets knocked down, only to get back up again. No matter how many times he gets knocked down, he gets back up again. Uchi's face is now filled with bruises, and the referee checks up on him. Haru slips on his own blood, accidentally pushing the referee to his opponent and knocking him down. Kabuki's coach says it's invalid, so Kumi verbally fights him on it, leading the coach to give in and count it just to move on. Shin takes on the next match. Before it begins, Kumi advises him that the referee is still dizzy from Haru pushing him, which means Shin is free to make any move he pleases. The match starts with Shin making elbows and other illegal moves toward his opponent. The moment the referee gets his bearings, he sees that Shin's opponent is already knocked down, and so he declares Shin the winner. This leads the enemy coach to be determined to have the next win and send in his best student, the looming giant, Bison. The heroes realize that Kuro can't beat him, so Kumi tells them that it's time for her students to go home. Now alone, Kumi dresses up in boxing gear and enters the ring herself. The woman dodges every move Bison makes, and she even knocks him out. The next day, the chairman complains about the news that Shirokin's boxing club defeated Yabuki High and insists it doesn't count since it was an informal match. Gonzo eats his head for it, insisting that they are now number one after defeating the number one boxing club. This makes the chairman admit his defeat. Elsewhere, Goro is walking the campus, frustrated that he lost his promised job thanks to Kumi. He accidentally spots Maruta, bowing in front of Kumi, thanking her for crediting him for the boxing club's win. She also promises him a position in the Uedo clan, making Maruta even happier. The hiding vice principal is confused about what's going on, especially since Maruta called Kumi Ohu. Kumi is in the office, sneezing with a red nose. The other teachers congratulate her class for beating the number one boxing club in Japan. Later at her classroom, the teacher is still high from all the praises that she's daydreaming at her desk. Just outside the hall, Goro is looking at her, smirking that the woman won't get away with what she did. Later, Kumi goes home to her house and sneezes in front of her men. The overprotective Kyo hangs his jacket on her and orders the others to get the doctor. Kumi insists that she is all right, but Kyo tells her that they must take every precaution to make sure she's all right. Shino arrives, so Kumi acts helpless, so the consigliere will help her inside. Light suddenly flashes as they head inside. Kumi looks behind and is taken aback that Vice Principal Goro is in front of the house, taking pictures of her. He tells the teacher that with his proof that a Yakuza heiress is in their school, the board will have no choice but to close down Shirokin High School. Kumi looks to the sky, fully prepared for her teaching career to end. The next day, the chairman congratulates Goro for getting them ammunition to close the school. They are shocked to hear from Gonzo that Kumi has already resigned. This makes the chairman angry at the vice principal, seeing as they no longer have any reason to close down the school. While Kumi is leaving the school grounds with her things, her classroom students, minus Shin and Kuro, approach her and ask why she's quitting school. They all think that the vice principal must have bullied her again, only for her to tell them that she is sick of babysitting scumbags like them. She then provokes them to fight her, leading her to beat them all up, while memories of all their good times together flash in her mind, putting her to tears. She leaves the school, feeling like she no longer has regrets. Beazle and the Nekomata group ambush her. She's about to beat them up, only for her cold to catch up to her and lead her to faint. Kuro is just about to arrive at school when he sees the unconscious Kumi being put in the car by the Nakoma clan. He calls Shin, and they follow the car to the house they put Kumi in. Shin wants to barge in with no plan, so Kuro stops him by telling him they will hurt Kumi if he just goes in. This calms down the young man, who tells Kuro that he should head to the Uedo clan and tell them what's going on. Kuro doesn't want to be killed by the Yakuza, but Shin promises he will be all right. Kuro rides his bike so scared to go to the Uedo clan that he thinks of getting his classmates instead. Shin sees that many of the lookouts head out with their car and is now confident that there is only one guard left inside. He goes in and hits the guard with a wooden plank. However, it's not enough to take him down. leaving Shin with an angry man to fight. Meanwhile, Kuro heads to his classmates to tell them that Kumi is being held captive. All of them are still angry at their teacher, and they ignore the man's plea. Kuro's insistence on them help makes Minoru push him, bumping Kumi's desk and spilling papers all over the floor. Kuro is so frustrated that they can just abandon Kumi that he leaves angry. Meanwhile, Beazle and his men just told their boss that they had just kidnapped the heiress of the Uuden clan, making the boss frustrated with their stupidity. He tells them that if Ryu finds out about this, the Nakoma clan is finished. He sees no other choice but to order his men to kill Kumi and leave no trace behind. Meanwhile, Shin has already defeated the guard and is carrying the sleeping Kumi on his back, despite being full of bruises himself. He sees that Kumi is smiling as she dreams of Shino, making Shin frustrated. Just as he's about to leave, the Nakoma clan suddenly arrives to stop him. Back in the classroom, Kumi's students just realize that there are papers on the floor, and they pick them up. They see that they are blank test papers, with a note from their teacher congratulating them for being the #1 boxing club. They realize that their teacher couldn't have abandoned them if she had written this on their papers. Principal Gonzo comes into their classroom believing in Kumi and tears up her resignation paper. Meanwhile, Shin is about to be attacked by Beazle with a knife. Kumi suddenly wakes up and blocks Beazle's attack, declaring that no one can hurt her students. All her students swiftly charge into the residence, beating up every Nakoma gangster they get their hands on. The Nakoma head tries to flee the scene, but Ryu and his gangsters shield his path. As the fight goes on, Goro comes to the location to take a picture of the scene, only for Fuji and Kyo to catch what he's doing. Kyo intimidates the vice principal, making Goro too scared to continue his skimming. The fight is over, with all the Nakoma men defeated. Shino comes into the scene, worried for Kumi, making the teacher smile. Shin interrupts their moment and tells the consigliere that he's late, and then storms off. As the group leaves, Ryu and his Yakuza are all hiding as they observe how Kumi has found her path. As Kumi walks with her students, she tells everyone that only the first one who gets to school gets to take the test, while the others fail automatically. This leads everyone to run to school.